which is not all that surprising. But the way that they did the NXT segment, and we'll come around to it when we talk about NXT itself, she just ended the conversation with a completely different conversation by going, and I need to figure out this NXT shit. Like, it's just, go away. I have other shit to do, and I'll tell you about it another time. Really dumb. So, a lot with it. Yeah, I mean, that happens way more often than it should. And we don't know who any of the NXT people are going to be, and we don't know who the people that are outside of the company are going to be, but they are in a spot where I am kind of anticipating that they're going to announce them on the SmackDown and Raw side of things and just be like Nick Aldis will come out tonight and go, and the first 2 matches that I'm going to announce are going to be Aleister Black against Trick Williams and so-and-so against whatever. That match isn't happening. It's just the first 2 names I thought of. I don't think that they're going to announce anything on NXT itself. But I felt so deflated with after writing up an article about who would be the 16 people and then going through and talking about this on podcast things and all, and like, you know, really kind of being like, who would be the best options? And then I see it's Rusev, Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sheamus, and I'm like, fuck.
Now, to be fair, we did say 3 of those 4 names.
We did, but not from our own choices. It was mostly because they had already put the graphics up. So it's like they showed Rusev in the graphics, and then they showed Shinsuke Nakamura or Sheamus or whatever. And like, I wouldn't have picked most of them. I probably would have picked Rusev and Sheamus to be in there. I don't think I would have picked Nakamura and Priest. And I'm a fan of them, but I don't think I would have put them in there. And then when I look at the pairings of this, I'm like, all right, well, if Rusev beats Priest, I'm rooting for somebody to beat Rusev or Priest. If Sheamus fights Nakamura, I'm rooting for somebody to beat one of those 2 either. I don't want any one of these 4 to be the final opponent. And I wanted at least something interesting. If you're going to make 4 separate announcements, I think the 4 interesting people should be spread out between those. And if they don't have 4 interesting people, that is already making this a neuter tournament to me. Because I don't care if it's like, say, like The Miz should be in this tournament. He shouldn't win it, but he should be in the tournament. And if they end up going, and the first match I'm going to announce is The Miz against Johnny Gargano, I'll be like, okay, I like both of those guys, but it doesn't matter. Who is actually in contention to win this? And I'm assuming that Gunther is going to be revealed next week on Raw. I'm assuming that whoever the outsider is, maybe they'll announce one of them, but like, man, I kind of wanted to hear like a Matt Cardona name, or, you know, if they brought in
to Ava, though. They might still leave that to Ava, since Ava's already got history being like, yeah, I booked TNA people anyway, so Matt Cardona's in the tournament.
The fact that she didn't say a single thing makes me think that they're not. I guess we'll talk about it now kind of in that mix, but like, there was a backstage segment in NXT. And this is how I wrote this out on eWrestling News. So this was like as verbatim as I could get it, to where I was like, okay, this is kind of all over the place.
This will give you goosebumps, but we know who you'll marry.
style, and substance. In the GMC Sierra. Work at 0% APR plus 3,100 total value on this Sierra 1500 model.
The place. Sol Ruka had came out and said she wants a match against Blake Monroe at Gold Rush. And Ava said, you're doing really well with your recovery, but you have about a month left, which implies you can't. But I'm going to leave it alone and we're going to figure that out. And we're going to talk about nothing as an alternative. Just, how, whatever. And Zarya was standing there and she's like, oh, that's great. I can win the speed title at the same time, which implies that Blake Monroe is having that match with Sol Ruka. Poorly written. And then Jacy Jayne comes up with Fatal Influence and she's like, yeah, well, I want my rematch against Tatum Paxley. And Fallon Henley's like, yeah, but I'm going to win the speed title. And then Ava goes, leave my office. I need to talk to Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce about the tournament. So fucking poorly written. But that was all she had said, was just like, I can't even confirm anything about NXT and I gotta go talk to the Raw and SmackDown people about something else. And then later on they confirmed about half of those matches and the other half are up in the air. So WWE doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And it shouldn't be surprising considering how much they don't know what they're doing as it is. But, and we're talking about a company that, I'll speak from my own personal experience that I put out an application for their script supervisor job. And then, a couple weeks later, they got rid of the job. So it was like, we need somebody to help with our scripts. You know what? That's going to be a problem for people to understand our continuity and figure out what the fuck we're doing. Baffles me that the company is like that. But the four people announced, Rusev, Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Damian Priest, I don't think it changes a single thing. And that's part of what I'm so bored about, because they didn't announce anybody that would have made me second guess Gunther winning this. And now I'm just like, all right, well, let's wait until SmackDown and hear the announcement of the next four people and if any of them are going to be interesting or not. Womp womp.
Yeah, go check out the Darkcast here. Check out our podcast. Listen to me explain why I think it should be Carmelo Hayes or Javon Evans or Obafemi, and why we probably shouldn't have a guy who's only 10 years younger than Cena. Now, granted, Gunther is younger, but he does not need the push of beating John Cena. It's a fun statistic to say, in the same year I retired Goldberg and John Cena. But Gunther's made. Make someone else. Those are my thoughts.
I would make the argument about why you might as well do it with someone like Gunther, because fundamentally, Gunther is not made. Because Gunther isn't a star. Gunther's just a guy. He's like, a higher level guy than some of like a Grayson Waller or a Carmelo Hayes or Austin Theory, but he is just a guy. And that's because they just don't have stars at the level of Cena, and they haven't had one at the level of Cena, well, since Cena was at his peak. And, this is going to be the real big transition point for WWE. Probably him and Randy Orton, when they both hang up their boots, that's kind of it. Like, you've got no one you can lean on anymore. You've got no Orton, you've got no Cena, got no Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. You've got no one that you can lean on anymore for actually, like, in-ring one-off matches. So then you're left with who you have. And, we've always talked about the aging male roster, because eventually you'll lose Cody, eventually you'll lose Punk. Like, who else? Who's next? And I just don't think that, just based on what I've seen, especially recently, and how they've like absolutely horribly handled this final year of John Cena's career, just in terms of just overall booking and ridding any excitement and fun out of it. Just like, if they were to give it to a younger guy like an Obafemi or a Carmelo Hayes, someone that you really could give a springboard to by giving the victory, they just wouldn't capitalise on it. they'd win the match, and then they'd lose at the Royal Rumble, and then they'd be in some kind of mid-card United States title match at WrestleMania or something, and you probably never. And commentary would always bring up about the fact that, he's the guy that retired John Cena as he loses the Money in the Bank ladder match and never gets a push to the world title. And yeah, that's just how I would see it going. So in theory, you should be giving it to a young guy that you have like real sights on. We really can elevate this guy, but I think that just giving someone like the final win over Cena, it's just not enough. You have to build upon it, and that's always the issue. Is I don't trust them to build upon it. They had the great moment this year of John Cena turning heel and everyone getting excited about it, and they didn't build on it. Like, you could have Obafemi beat John Cena, then you got to build on it. You always need a follow up. You need to know what's coming next. What's the plan? If he beats John Cena, then what next? Does he win the Intercontinental title straight away? Are we building him up? Do we give him an undefeated streak? Is he going for the world title? When does he become the world champion? Like, you have to have a plan for whoever's going to be the one to beat Cena. So you might as well just give it to someone like Gunther, who you already have well established, because okay, it's just another feather in his cap.
So if you guys are keen on getting on any of these ones right here, you can definitely get your hands on. And especially, guys, now this is actually only going to be about $19.99, okay? No matter how much it's actually, like, no matter how popular they are still going to be on the same price as all the other ones as well. And also on top of that ones, if you guys are pretty new, you can actually get two at the same time. Can I say, okay, we want to see the worms. I actually have a reply to you. If you guys are wanting to see a series, I have to actually go for one by one. So I have told you guys earlier, just if you guys are wanting to see another SP series, please stay tuned for a little bit. Give me 5 to 10.
In his cap. It's just another thing that you can talk about in his when he cuts promos talking about how great he is. He can talk about how he retired Goldberg and John Cena, and then that's like, that's just his arc essentially. His gimmick is retiring people. It could be the case that he has the match with Brock at WrestleMania, and that's Brock's retirement match, and then he says that he's retired Goldberg, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar, and then you're building up this whole retirement gimmick for him. So that's kind of like, he is the guy who gets rid of your favorites essentially, and gets rid of your the stars from history. He's
a legend killer.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And then he killed Randy Orton as well, and then that's the end of Randy Orton's career. So it's like you might as well tell that story with him, because you have an inbuilt thing with Goldberg. So as I say, Robbie's right in theory, but it wouldn't work in practice, because this is a company that just can't capitalize on things, or doesn't plan ahead enough to take advantage of that situation.
You heard it first here. Austin Theory, Austin Practice, not the same thing.
See, but I think everything Callum said is true. But I think even the example of Gunther is a great example of this company doesn't make stars. It's crazy to me that Callum is saying Gunther's just a guy, not because he's wrong, but because look at his resume. Like 85% of his tenure, he's been a champion in this company. He's longest reigning IC champion of all time, 2-time world champion, Royal Rumble record holder. Like,
NXT UK held that belt like forever.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can't establish Gunther with what you already have, you have failed. And giving him the John Cena feather in his cap is going to add to that legacy, but it'll actually switch over when people stop saying, yeah, but he's no Undertaker. Just because Undertaker had the benefit of being around during what was perceived as a prosperous time for the company, and not in the everything is a niche market era of today. And I don't know, like, I kind of feel like there's no good answer here, because, as Callum said, they fumbled this year so badly that nothing's really gonna save it. Honestly, it's literally gonna be John. Maybe gets to face down his opponent if the guy wins at Survivor Series. Other than that, it's just going to be built on, hey, don't forget, on December 13th, John Cena's wrestling for the last time. Make sure you tune into that. Which is lame. Like, it's fucking lame. That's my problem with all of this. It's lame. It's boring. It's not interesting.
The sad thing about it as well.
In our Discord, Gilly Zane put out a picture. I don't know who was the original source for it, but apparently people are calling this the Ruthless Depression era. I like that.
Is that if they decide to on paper,
you might need to repeat yourself, Calum. Your internet connection's making you a transformer.
I can see from.
Yeah, we still can't really hear what you're saying.
I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna be quiet then.
Let's see. We might be able to hear you better, a little bit better now that you said you'll be quiet, because I could hear that at least.
I'll try. But they did decide to go with the brave move of going with Femi or Kamala Hayes. They just have Cena beat him in their fight match.
Yeah, and that's another whole disappointing thing. I don't know. I think the problem they have is, like, Callum brought up a good point of, hey, Cena, now you're really in the doldrums. You can't rely on somebody. But you're wrong, because they're just going to fucking slot Roman in that spot. And then Roman will wrestle once a year or once every other year and be used as the John Cena. Because they don't know how to fucking just make new stars. You have so many hours of TV. Make a new star. I'm not going to keep going because we do this every week. But it drives me absolutely insane as somebody who grew up in a time where it was like stars were being made, or at least attempted to be made, constantly. Now it's just like, well, maybe one day they'll get to be at the Randy Orton level if they stick around for 20 years. Maybe we'll give them the world title eventually.
Let's backtrack to Monday Night Raw a little bit more, talk about some of the other things that they had said and done. One of them being Logan Paul popped back up. Seemed like he had the slightest bit of a babyface turn.
Back in the day, you bet sinners just to get boards.
Word.
Now I take them to make threes.
Today's NBA stars, everybody does everything.
Ant-Man, SGA, Luka, dudes playing 1 through 5.
Bigs dishing out like family dinner.
Woo! Got me smashing triple doubles. Shaq, basketball, not burgers.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 if your bet wins. Paid in bonus bets. Plus, get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. The crown is yours.
Which, of course, when that happened, I was just like, everybody wait until the end of the episode. He's not turning babyface. It's not happening. And lo and behold, he doesn't. And he, starts off the night kind of helping out CM Punk in fighting with everybody that's, setting up. It's the same story every single week. CM Punk comes out there, the Vision, Jey Uso, blah, blah, blah. Ends up being a double count out. Logan Paul turns on CM Punk, hits him with the brass knuckles, and surrenders them to Paul Heyman. The implication being, of course, Logan Paul is joining the War Games match, and we got Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and then question marks. Rollins, of course, not in the mix. They haven't confirmed anybody else. I'm assuming Brock Lesnar is one of them, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. And then, I don't know, the other person could be Drew McIntyre, or it could end up being Austin Theory, it could end up being whoever, I don't know. Logan Paul is one of those guys that, like, we've said it a million times, I don't like Logan Paul for a lot of different reasons, but the guy, if you took the Logan Paul character and the Logan Paul person and you separated them, Logan Paul, the professional wrestler, a lot of fun. And I'm sure he'll be a fun element to War Games. It just sucks that I can't be happy that it's him because he's him, you know. And it'll be the same when it comes to Brock Lesnar of like, yeah, Brock can be fun, but God damn it, he's Brock, and I don't like that. Sure, why not? Logan Paul gives a name, and it's fine of a replacement as you could possibly assume him.
Yeah, I don't love this. Like, we had watched the 95 War Games and remarked on the power of that team, but I think we might be heading towards a super team where it's Punk, Jay, Roman, Cena, and Cody, which is a stacked babyface side as you'll ever get. But I don't know, I don't love this because it feels like you're just doing it to do it. You know, and that's not what War Games should be. You're falling into that same trap of, well, we have to do Hell in a Cell because it's October. But we'll see how it goes.
Some of the other things that happened on the episode of Raw. I am very suspicious that Nikki Bella is going to turn heel very soon. She lost the tag team match with Stephanie Vaquera to Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, which Raquel then is now the number one contender, and she's going to have her match next week. So I'm assuming Stephanie beats Raquel, and then Nikki celebrates with her, and then, you know, hits her from behind.
Do you think she'll say that she wished Stephanie died in the womb?
She seems to be like, I'm really doing great stuff now and all. And it's like, oh, sure you are.
I did read a quote on Twitter that said she found the roster to be surprised when she tells them that, like, Danielson gives her advice and stuff to watch. And I'm like, isn't this the group of women who grew up watching Total Divas? Are you surprised that Daniel Bryan talks to Nikki Bella? Like, what?
Like, he should. They are in the same family together. But Penta, El Grande Americano, they had a whole thing after that with Dom and Rey Mysterio returning and, you know, basically being like, you're not the king of the luchadors. So we're going to get something down the line between Rey and his son Dom. And I don't know exactly what that's going to be, but I'm assuming that it's the AAA Mega Championship and it's that whatever. What the fuck is the name of it? Now I'm going to look it up because I need to get the name right.
I would almost prefer
Guerra de Titans. I don't know if that's even pronounced correctly, but that's December 20th.
I would almost prefer hair versus mask, and maybe Dom can lose the title prior to, because I would like to see something really special with like a hair versus mask and Dom gets shaved, or maybe even Rey retires and Dom takes his mask. If that happens, it won't be a AAA, but you know, maybe that could happen. Either way, I like this angle. I think unfortunately Rey is only really, really good now when he works.
Don't compromise quality insurance for savings or your time for this ad. Hit that skip button, or don't, and watch me skip.
You in there? Yes. Yes.
We are farmers. Bum 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 bum.
He works with Dom, but Dom is so much more confident today than he was leading into WrestleMania 39, and it was a fun watch.
Becky had her whole crash out moment talking about dragging out the Maxine Dupree match. Kabuki Warriors beat Bayley and Lyra. They are now number one contenders de facto for the women's tag titles. So another implication going on there that probably Asuka and Kairi on one side of the War Games. I'm assuming with Roxanne and Raquel, and then I guess Nia, because Nia's doing this whole thing with Bliss and Flair. We got Bliss and Flair, and then I don't know if it's Bayley, Lyra, Io, Rhea. Yeah, there's a handful of other people that they can throw in there, but we'll probably get some more information on that on SmackDown tonight. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee retain the tag titles over the Judgment Day. And, a little bit of a tease of the Jey Uso turn ends up not happening. So for, 2.5 hour episode of Raw, that's, one of those shows, again, that you could have boiled that down to 2 hours and it would have been a little bit better. But, they moved some stories along. Sure, why not? NXT was a bit of a mess this week. And it's like, I don't know what they're going for with some of the stuff that they're doing right now. It's very weird to me that NXT is promoting Gold Rush, and it's a 2-week thing that's in Madison Square Garden on the 18th and the 25th. And they keep going like, yeah, that's Gold Rush. That's where all these titles are being defended. And then every one of these titles is being defended prior to that too. It's really diluting the hell out of it, because they've done, like, between this week and last week, they've had like 4 championship matches already. And we're going to get more next week too, prior to this whole thing. So they're all over the place. They had a 6-woman tag. Fatal Influence won because you got to set up the whole, eventual thing, JC Jane and Tatum Paxley, which they didn't confirm, despite the fact that it's like, obviously that's what they're going to do. But they had all these other stupid segments where, like, for some reason, El Grande Americano has a match with Josh Briggs. Why does Josh Briggs get thrown into this? He's got a feud going on with Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne. Miles Bourne, by the way, spends the episode saying, hey, Ricky Saints, leave a little bit of Trick Williams for me. Dude, aren't you trying to fight Josh Briggs? And then Tavion Heights costs Briggs the match against El Grande Americano, who has Rayo and Bravo ringside and Jasper Troy watching. So that's just a menagerie of heels. And then the babyface comes in and does the illegal thing. I don't know where they're going with that. I don't know why that was how they had to do this. It very easily could have been so many other different ways to tell that story in a more efficient way. Kelani Jordan then cuts a promo where she talks about how the TNA locker room and the NXT locker room hate her. And she doubles down on she's a heel now. It took them about 8 months to do this, but they've been teasing Kelani Jordan turning heel for like the entirety of this year. And every time that she does something where she acts like a complete bitch, they backtrack about like 2 weeks later and they end up having her against somebody like a Lash Legend and make her seem like more of a bitch. Lash is the other one that they've gone back and forth with over and over again. And Jada Parker, they do it too. The 3 of them are like, they could not figure out who they wanted to be a heel and who they wanted to be a face out of them. Seems like they're dead set now on Jordan being a heel. And credit to where the story is for that. She at least calls out something that makes a little bit of sense. She says, you cheer for Dom when he wins the AAA title by cheating. You cheer for Cody when he retains his title at Saturday Night's Main Event by cheating. But I cheat and you boo me. Okay, I like that. But then she goes, and you're mad at Lola Vice for going to AAA. And it's like, you're happy for Lola Vice to go to AAA and you're mad at me for going to TNA. I don't know about that. That doesn't really work the same. And then that's partially to build up Kendall Gray, who is doing a whole thing with Ren Sinclair so that Tyra May Steele can have a match. And then they can announce that Jordan Grace is going to be in a triple threat with Lei Ying Lee.
Block Blast Puzzle Games. Play now.
Ollie's deals are so good, you won't believe the prices.
Can this pack be real?
This has to be a joke. It's no joke. This store is amazing. You have to see it for yourself. Ollie's Bargain Outlet sells famous brand name merchandise at up to 70% off the fancy store prices. Bargains on housewares, toys, bed and bath, books, food, gifts, and so much more. Hurry in to get the deals now, because when they're gone, they're gone.
Ollie's! Good stuff, cheap!
Lee to challenge Kalani Jordan for the title by proxy of Santino because Ava can't book it, even though one of them is an NXT talent. Fucking mess, man. This is like, if you try to map this out, it'd be one of those things that when you see on TV shows where somebody has like the red string on like the wall and it's like, and he went to 3rd Street and that's where the whatever is and all. And it's like, this is not that complicated and you're overcomplicating the hell out of it. I think that they think the more shit that they do, the more complicated equals the more interesting. And instead it just dilutes the hell out of it, to, you know, use that phrase. It's like the phrase I'm using, I guess, on this episode more than anything. I'm not a fan of it. I think that they could tighten this up a lot. Having said all that, I don't know if you guys have any reactions to the mess of, like, if you're like, okay, I can't even keep track of what you're saying, you know?
So what I will say is I'm currently on hiatus from watching NXT. But what that does sound like to me is shit's constantly moving. I wish it made more sense, but I do like my wrestling shows where people aren't constrained to boxes where they can only interact with their current rival. I wish some of it made a little more sense, like Miles Bourne, for example, just being like, hey, fuck Josh Briggs, and by the way, Ricky Saints, I want to beat up Trick Williams too. Can you save him for me? That doesn't make as much sense. But I did enjoy the Kalani promo, mostly because she's on her mandatory heel run. It must be like a curriculum in school. Like, okay, you have to take a couple of credits of being a heel before we can send you up. Because this is what they do. They take these plucky, adorable baby faces like Roxanne and Kalani, and they're like, well, you have to be a heel. They took a massive baby face like Braun Breaker, and they were like, I don't care how boring it is, you gotta be a heel. Yeah, so she's just on her mandatory heel run. At least some of it makes sense. Like, you know, she's gonna be like, oh, you cheer for Jada Parker and Lola Vice and their asses, but you won't cheer me for being a great athlete. You know, I thought it was a solid promo for her, for where she's at. But yeah, a lot of it's just a mess, and I can't help but laugh at the idea of Jordynne Grace wins TNA Knockouts title. Like, if they do that, I might have to throw in the towel on Jordynne, personally. I think Jordynne's the best, but if they do that, then I see the trajectory they're going, and I don't like that.
I don't really have like much to add because I kind of glazed over when you started talking about NXT. So like, I heard words and heard names, and none of it went in. So,
well, the speed tournament is another thing that'll win you over. Their idea of this speed tournament is very much, I guess, they want to make everything speed related just very quick. And, you know, we now have 2 different tournaments in the NXT side of things that show this. They want a tournament that is 3 matches. That's not a tournament. And Zarya beats Ren Sinclair because out of all the people to beat, why pair her up with Ren Sinclair? And just, you know, it seems like they just picked a random person, and that sucks. And Fallon Henley is going to go up against Danny Sikelski, who was the winner of the 2nd season of WWE LFG. And she's gotten a new ring name. They trademarked Skylar Ray, SKYLAR RAYE. Is that not the name of a singer? but just slightly different?
I wouldn't know. I'm surprised you would know.
I'm pretty sure that there's a Skylar Ray that's like RAE or something.
I'm sorely tempted to play an episode to play the game. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very generic name. Yeah, I'm not seeing. So there's a male music artist, Skylar Ray, but it's Skylar with an E and Ray with an RAY.
No, there is. I was just looking it up now. Skylar Ray, musician and singer. It's literally SKYLAR, so the same, and then RAE. So they just put an extra Y in there.
Style and substance. In the GMC Sierra. Work at 0% APR plus 3,100 total value on this Sierra 1500 model.
There. Some, I guess, somebody from TikTok and whatever, one of those types, I guess. But yeah, musician and singer named Skylar Ray. And you're going to go Skylar Ray and just add a Y into there. Between the like trademark shit that they've had before where there's been other things, I would think that would be the type of thing that you'd be like, oh my God, you're going to have a blonde girl named Skylar Ray and you're going to have another blonde girl named Skylar Ray. Maybe they should figure out another name, especially because they had already previously trademarked Danny Ray. So why is it Skylar now? And I don't know. I could see that. I could very well see that changing because, then again, this is a company that for some reason, out of all the names that they decided to go with, Sol Ruka's real name is being used essentially as referee Jessica Carr's nickname on Evolve. And it's like, yeah, it's different if it's like, okay, it's Becky, where there could be tons and tons of Beckys. But Sol Ruka's real name is Calyx. And CALYX.
Oh, that's weird.
Jessica Carr's real name, ring name in Evolve is Calyx. KAYLYX. So a name like Calyx ends up being like, let's repurpose that for a different person. I don't know what they're doing here, but I don't like it. Skylar Ray seems like a really, I'm going to be Jay-Z, but I'm going to be JAEZ instead of JAY. Like, come on. Don't start doing that. But she's not winning. They're not going to give this Skylar Ray the win over Fallon Henley, especially when they've already announced basically that it's going to be Zarya versus Fallon Henley. So it defeated the purpose of even doing the match next week. When you advertise, I'm going to beat the other person that has never been competing on this show, and we're clearly setting up this match instead. I don't get why they do that and just neuter themselves. I'm going to use the word neuter again. That's another word that I'm using a lot in this podcast. They cut themselves at the feet before they even get a chance to start walking. And not a fan of that. I already mentioned the whole GM talk and everything. And here's another dumb thing that happened on NXT this week. Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley were in a backstage segment, and Izzy Dame's like, you got to stop making decisions based off your emotions. And Paxley's like, yeah, that's right. But I've got, quote, one more thing that I need to do before I feel satisfied. And guess how they're announcing that for next week? Tatum Paxley will be there live.
Well, they can't announce that Tatum Paxley will satisfy herself. That's not appropriate.
Maybe announce what she needs to do with the one more thing. Or even just what's her plan for next week or something. But they're just like, hey, the champion that's there every single week, she's going to be there live. He has a live show and she's there every week. What the hell? You know? And this whole thing ends with the Muy Grande Championship celebration, because apparently over the past few days, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green won the AAA Mixed Tag Team titles, which ends up being a vessel for Thea Hale and Joe Hendry to be out there and to have their whole, say his name and they appear and pop out of the cake. And, we're going to get that at Gold Rush. So at least they're using Thea Hale. That's something.
Yeah, attaching her to a gimmick that shelf life is already becoming close to its expiry date. That's kind of a good sign for her.
It's better than what they were doing the previous picks a couple of months, where she just literally didn't exist. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a low bar.
Yeah,
it's good.
Well, the best part about this was that there was a digital exclusive where Chelsea goes, I have never been creamed on like this, which Matt Cardona had a lot of fun with on the internet. So, shout out to Chelsea doing the Lord's work. And I'm already over this Joe Hendry thing.
Not satisfied with your options? We get it. That's why we built Kintsugi. We use AI that monitors files and optimizes sales tax for you. Kintsugi handles state and global compliance, saving you the time and money you need to scale your business. We handle everything for you, including physical mail, errors, audits, and real-time monitoring. All you need to do is approve. What are you waiting for? The future's already here. Kintsugi. Sales tax made simple, done right.
You are over Joe Hendry.
I mean, yeah, I am, because WWE is now taking the long route with something that was over as hell last year when they had the man in main events of pay-per-views. Now they're taking they're doing the Jordan Grace. What are we doing here?
Well, they do what they always do. They take a joke and they beat it into the ground, because now basically his entire shtick is they just will say his name in just the most random circumstances. He'll jump up from trash cans or anything along those lines, or burst through walls, and it's like, it's like eventually either the bell has to ring, or he has to do something that's more substantial than just. Or even just do the singing stuff, or do more creative things other than he's literally just become catchphrase, appearance, and that's it. He's not even doing some of the other stuff that got him over, like the more concert-y stuff. He's doing that every now and again, but he's not doing it with the same consistency that he would do it on the indies. So they've distilled him down to his catchphrase, and that's gonna be the death of him. Well, I say it's going to be the death of him. It's going to necessitate a heel turn in 6 months' time, which will not be successful. It's like, I was tired of all of you saying my... Yeah, I was going to say, I was so tired. I was tired. I became your performing puppet, just saying my name, and I appeared. Well, no more. And that's going to be the whole basis of his heel turn. All you people.
Now, when you say my name, it'll be in fear. Grr.
So anyway, that's NXT. The AEW side of things. We'll toss out one more thing. Speaking of Skylar Ray with the name, Zelina Vega is not Zelina Vega anymore. Apparently, she's just Zelina. And if that's not another indicator of Aleister Black and Zelina are just replacing Karrion Kross and Scarlett after that entrance from last week, and then let's basically do the exact same gimmick that's going on with them, but then we're also going to switch the girl to only have her first name. That's like, are you purposely doing that to say fuck you to Karrion Kross and Scarlett? Seems a little weird. Why, after all this time, is she just Zelina?
I think it's just because the I mean, it could be for the Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux thing. I can't say for certain, but I think it's probably more likely just because her surname's different to Black's, and so they're just calling her Zelina now. So because they're acknowledging their married status on TV.
Yeah, I don't think this one's that deep, but I will give them credit because people want to believe that this entire thing is being done in spite. It's put Kross and Scarlett back in the mouths of wrestling fans again, so that's fun for them. I'm not gonna say that. I can't say for certain that it isn't in spite, but they had nothing to spite. They didn't use the couple. What are you spiting? Go ahead, Callum. Were you gonna say something?
I'll say, like, it's not like there's been a mass movement since Kross left that they're trying to be like, oh well, fuck you, we're just gonna go with Black and Zelina, and they're just gonna take your gimmick. It's like, yeah, I mean, any quote unquote movement that happened after they got released died in a week. So, and now they're pretty much invisible anywhere, just doing stuff on the independent circuit. So I doubt that they're still butthurt about that.
The weird thing is, the one that gave me pause was that Black did an interview where he was like, they decided to put us together after seeing the success of putting other married couples together in this way. And it's like, yes, WWE is doing that a lot right now, where, hey, if you're married on TV, hey, just be together. If you're married in real life, just be together on TV. But I can't imagine it's that deep. I think it's just, hey, Aleister Black is back. I'm not doing anything. Can you put me with my husband? I think it was more that than anything else.
It is very strange how things work out to be like, like they're doing the same entrance basically as Kross and Scarlett. And then it becomes, now it's like, you can't call her Scarlett Bordeaux. She has to be Scarlett. Now she's not Zelina Vega. She's Zelina. It's like, all right, you're either unintentionally going down that rabbit hole and becoming like, finding yourself doing the same thing, or you are intentionally doing it. I don't know. We'll see. If Aleister Black comes out with a dumb fucking red.
So if you guys are keen on getting on any of these ones right here, you can definitely get your hands on. And especially, guys, now, this is actually only going to be about $19.99, okay? No matter how much it's actually, no matter how popular they are still going to be on the same price as all the other ones as well. And also on top of that ones, if you guys are pretty new, you can actually get two at the same time. Can we see, okay, we want to see the worms. I actually have a reply to you. If you guys are wanting to see a series, I have to actually go for one by one. So I have told you guys earlier, just if you guys are wanting to see another SP series, please stay tuned for a little bit. Give me 5 to 10.
Fucking red mask and looks like a gimp like Karrion Kross, then we know for a fact it's not a coincidence, then it's just a plan. Or if he starts doing the I'm gonna corrupt you and make you a heel thing, then it'll be we're just carrying the same story. Karrion Kross carrying the same story. That'll be the same.
Well, that's his cross to bear.
Oh my god, he's starting to cut promos about that. Wouldn't shock me, to be honest. Well, let's round things out with AEW Dynamite. And that show started off with a segment between Samoa Joe and Tony Schiavone. There was something prior to the show, but they got back to that a little bit later, and we'll wait and talk about that in a bit. But Joe, understandably pissed about what Tony Schiavone and Hangman Adam Page did to make a fool of him in a cool segment from Friday night. That basically is a typical WWE segment. You start off with a promo, and it leads to the main event match, and here's the difference of that. And the difference was, okay, well, now it's for the trios titles. So I kind of assumed going into it that the Ops were going to win anyway, just because Kingston and Hook could lose, and you want to try to make Joe look like it's a viable option that he is going to beat Hangman if you're going to try to milk a second match out of that. And that ends up happening. Hobbs makes
made Hook tap out.
Hook tapped out,
rack.
To the torture rack, and then
it actually did a better job of. It did a better job of building Hobbs up than it did Joe.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
They also, because they had they were going to the main event, but in the main event they had Hobbs put Hangman through a table, basically taking him out of the match, and then getting the victory as well. And they're going to do a Hangman versus Hobbs street fight next week to help build up for the Full Gear show, or Full Scale Anywhere, should I say? And yeah, I'm actually like a little bit annoyed that they're doing that match, because I think they should save Hobbs to have the match at World's End against Hangman, because it just feels like a natural. He'll beat Joe, but then you've got a young guy in the Ops that could step up and extend it out another bit, but it's just a different match with a different person, and it's a younger guy that hasn't really been given that kind of opportunity. I mean, maybe they still do it. I still think there's a potential that because it's Full Scale Anywhere and you can have interference, get people involved, that they just have Hobbs beat Page. And then, he beats Joe, but then there's natural, he's beaten the world champion, so he's going to have a shot against him at either a big episode of Dynamite or at World's End. So they could go down that route. I just hope that it's not a case of Page just going to beat Hobbs. It probably will be a case of just Page just beats Hobbs and then beats Joe, but I'd rather they tried something a little bit different to help build up Hobbs to, a main event level.
That's where I kind of would wish that if they were going to go and do that, maybe Hobbs should have been the opponent for Full Gear and not just do a second Joe match. But, it is what it is. But Claudio beats Orange Cassidy as one of the matches to try to set up the advantage situation. I thought that this was a little bit interesting too, that they went with they did the 2 men's matches and then they did the 1 women's match, and I was confused about this ahead of time, and this is my fault more than anything else, but when they had announced these advantage things, I thought that all the matches were happening on Dynamite. And I had written out ahead of time, like, okay, well, they're going to have these 6 matches because they're clearly not going to not have the other matches. And I was like, Harley Cameron's going to work twice? That's kind of strange. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be the 4 matches, and then the 2, if they need to have them, the 2 other matches will be at Collision. And then it's like, okay, no, actually, only one of the women's matches are happening. I thought that was a little bit strange, that they didn't have the other match for the women's thing, but...
Well, they already had a women's match. They already had another women's match on the show because they had one of the women's tournament tag matches on the show. So, and they're never going to do 3 women's matches on one Dynamite.
I mean, they could.
I'm saying that sarcastically because it's just a thing. Like, we were lucky enough to have 2 women's matches on the Dynamite itself, but I think that I like the fact that they're doing this, even though I personally don't mind the whole coin flip excuse thing. To just have that, you don't need to build up towards it. I think it at least makes the matches that are happening this week on both Dynamite and Collision, that some of the matches have got stakes attached to them. Like, there's a real reason for them to happen. Like, you're going to do this best of 3 series for both the men's and the women's to, just add a bit more stakes and intrigue into what's going to happen on both Dynamite and Collision. And, I mean, realistically, because this is I don't want a situation where they feel like they have to have one of the babyface teams win the advantage to do something different. between two. No, we've discussed this ad nauseum. There's only one way to do a War Games or Blood and Guts match, and that is the heel team has the advantage. You can't do it any other way, unless you're doing some kind of silly gimmicky thing like the Tegan Nox.
Back in the day, you bet sinners just to get boards.
Word.
Now I take them to make threes.
Today's NBA stars, everybody does everything.
Ant-Man, SGA, Luka, dudes playing 1 through 5.
Bigs dishing out like family dinner.
Woo! Got me smashing triple doubles. Shaq, basketball, not burgers.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 if your bet wins, paid in bonus bets. Plus, get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. The crown is yours.
Tegan Nox thing, which you can do, but I think if you do that, especially in the women's match, it just feels like you're just copying that. So maybe just go with the heel team because it's just easier that way. And I think they've built up, especially the women's side, they've built that up that it's pretty obviously going to be the heel side winning, because I think the final match is the Megan Bain Harley Cameron match. I think is the final one. So if that's the case, then yeah, Harley's not beating Megan Bain.
No, it's wasn't it Megan Bain? Isn't Megan Bain against somebody else?
Oh no, Megan Bain fought Mina Shikara on this one. Sorry, I got that wrong. But it's whoever Harley Cameron's going to be facing. I think is, I think it's like it's Tekla. I think it's Harley Cameron Tekla is the final one. So Tekla's not going to lose that one to Harley.
Right.
So yeah.
But then the last one for the men is Moxley and Roderick Strong too. So it's like you should go realistically Moxley. And
yeah, Moxley will win that one, yeah.
Because Darby Allin beats Daniel Garcia, so that's like evens that up. And, Jamie Hayter most likely wins to even that up and set that up,
I think it's obviously, or it made it more obvious that it's going to be Moxley with the Roderick Strong, because if you wanted to make it interesting, it should have been Kyle O'Reilly. Because they've been feuding recently, so you could have really added a bit more jeopardy to that by making it Kyle O'Reilly. But I guess if the whole purpose of this Blood and Guts, or at least part of this purpose of Blood and Guts, is to have Kyle O'Reilly be the one to force Jon Moxley to tap out, that must be what they're doing. They haven't just been doing these. You'd like to think anyway. Again, I'm not going to say with any real certainty, but I have more faith in AEW's booking when it comes to this than WWE's. But I don't think they've just done those recent matches between Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley to have inconclusive finishes just for the sake of it. I think that that must be building into the finish of this match, that O'Reilly's going to be the one that forces Moxley to tap out or give up.
See, I hate that we're in a spot, and this is more of a reason to talk again about, which we don't need to really go into, but this is why War Games should not be every November. Because right now we're going to get the same exact match on both AEW and WWE within a week span.
Yeah.
That sucks.
They shouldn't be doing the multiple things, but in this instance, it's a WWE problem because they obviously have tied themselves to Survivor Series being the show where they do the War Games match, whereas AEW, they typically have done previous War Games in spring or summer. They've moved this one to November instead. So they're actually doing, AEW at least have built it so it's more natural that these ones done. They've done it the right way where they come up when they need to do it.
I mean, I'd make the argument this is AEW counter programming in some ways the War Games thing, because they know that War Games is happening in November, and then I don't think that they actively said let's push that until November to offset it, but they are doing it ahead of time, and they did have months where they could have done any of these, because there was nothing. I don't think there's anything that's different now compared to a month ago that was they couldn't have done 5-on-5 last month or the month prior. It's mostly been the same 10 people feuding on both sides for the past 3 months.
I agree with that. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, not only that, but they've done a bunch of here's a 5-on-5 Stadium Stampede, here's one in a cage, but it's a different kind of cage. They could have done this.
Yeah.
I agree that they've probably built it around this because they know that WWE does their ones and have done a means of counter programming, but I would say that they've still done it in a better way because at least it's been built towards this. There has been like months worth of, those two sides fighting each other in different configurations leading into this, whereas the WWE one is just going to be throwing people that are like singles people that are feuding with each other together in one match, like just because it is this time of the year to do a War Games one. So we'll throw, I don't know, Becky Lynch and the Kabuki Warriors will be teaming up, even though they've not done anything together this entire year, but we're just going to do it because it's the time of year to do a 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or whatever they're going to do women's match for War Games. Whereas at least in the AEW's example, they've timed it to match up with the War Games, but at least they've spent months with all of these people feuding with each other.
So more after that was set up with the $1 Million Trios match. They're milking that for just, you're doing the same thing. It's just, let's get another month out of this and stuff. It's not my favorite.
Twisted Tea Light is like sunshine in a can. Less sugar, fewer calories. Twisted Tea Light. Keep it twisted.
There was also, we want to have a 7th match between Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher, but now the stipulation is if Briscoe loses that match, he has to join the Don Callis family. So at least that gives it a little bit more intrigue instead of it just being, okay, Kyle Fletcher can beat Briscoe again, and then that's just going to be, I want an 8th match. I mean, we'll talk about that when we get into our Full Gear predictions, but I'm kind of assuming at this point Briscoe wins. Yeah.
They can't do him joining the Don Callis family. It just won't work.
Briscoe's going to win here. I think that's a good move because people like Mark Briscoe, but I mentioned this going into Wrestle Dream that I thought he was a standout babyface on that particular show, and that could have been the moment for that move.
Babes of Wrath beat Athena and Mercedes Moné, so they've moved on to the next round of the World Women's Tag Title Tournament that's going on, which we still don't know when it's going to wrap up, but we talked about some different scenarios before, so now it does seem more likely that they will be in the finals, if not the inaugural champions.
Yep.
I now think it's going to be them against Marina and Megan.
Either way, I think they win it all. Whether it's them against Tony and Mina, or whether it's against Megan and Marina, it's going to be, I think, Nightingale and Cameron will win the titles. And also, as a byproduct of this, not that it's going to really matter and it's not going to be where a title change is going to happen, but as a byproduct of Harley Cameron pinning Athena, she's going to fight Athena for the women's Ring of Honor Women's World title on the 20th of November edition of Ring of Honor.
You got new champion coming in. I highly doubt it.
I highly doubt it, but...
And, yeah, I mean, everything else we pretty much talked about, except for the other last big topic for us to get into here. Actually, there's one other thing. There's the
FTR and Brodito.
The FTR and Brodito thing, yeah. Making fun of the grandmother. Gravity comes out. Brodito fights. Yeah. So again, we're going to get to it. We'll get into our Full Gear things, but FTR is winning those tag belts.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing, though, is something that I did not see being announced because I just can't fathom why the hell they're doing this. Before Dynamite, Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan were on this, Twitter post or whatever, and this video where it's very awkward. Tony Khan's just like looking at the camera while talking to Tony Schiavone. It's very much like, I am reading my cue card. It is so great to be here, Tony Schiavone, and whatever. And he's talking about how great the national championship was and how he wants to bring the national title to AEW, which, number one, the NWA still has the national title. So
they are bitching. They are so upset at this. And
as they should be. Because that's like, that's like saying Tony Khan goes, oh man, I was always a big fan of the, the X Division. So I'm going to create the X Division. And then TNA would be like, fuck you, pal, we're here.
Well, to a certain extent, I think I genuinely want to live in the world where it's funnier that he just didn't know. Because who's watching the NWA? But there's also the weird thing of like, I guess they're in a dispute over the Shockwave trademark. Is this a thing? And this is me speculating. Is this a thing to be petty about that? Either way, like, that's neither here nor there. Okay, I don't know why he felt the need to bring up the NWA National Championship outside of the fact that he just loves wrestling on TBS. But there's nothing stopping them from having the AEW National Championship. You know, like, it's as a name in and of itself, it's fine.
As if you ignore all the other elements.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I guess we'll get there, but like, there's nothing. I don't understand why everybody's so butthurt, except for the fact that why are you bringing up the NWA national title when it exists? It exists in a zombified shell, yes, but it exists. It's kind of weird that you're just like, I want to bring the NWA national title and that kind of legacy to AEW. Sure, because I think
when you try Bluetooth Max, you'll probably be anticipating a spark. You'll get a wildfire. Bluetooth Max combines two powerful ingredients into one treatment that can be dissolved under your tongue. That means there's no waiting when you're ready. Bluetooth Max will have your confidence on a completely different level. If you're ready to experience that, go to Bluetooth.com.
I think, you merge two titles to create the Continental title, or not the unified title. I think you should have something that is like a.
Do you remember the Continental title was created as a means for Eddie Kingston to be a 3-belt champion?
Right, because they wanted to do the Triple Crown deal.
So you start a championship as it's a Triple Crown thing, but we're not going to merge the titles. He's just going to hold 3 titles because we're in this era where we're obsessed with giving champions multiple belts. And we're not going to merge them. He's going to lose each one of them individually, but we're going to keep the Continental Crown is going to be the Continental Championship. And then we're going to take the All Atlantic title and we're going to rename that the International title. And then eventually we're going to have both those titles become the Unified Champion, which I absolutely fucking hate that name. It's so stupid, the Unified Champion, because it should just be unifying the two titles. And if you're not unifying the two titles, then it's not unified, and then you shouldn't call it that. It's fundamentally, it does not make sense to call it the AEW Unified title, and it's a dumb name even if you continued that going forward. But it's especially dumb going forward to then go, we need to have another third mid-card title because we don't want to just have 2 mid-card titles. And to name it, the international title has whether the international title is part of the unified going forward or not, they have not officially merged it. So you kind of assume that they'll, at some point, they at least have some plans to split it back up. You mean to tell me that they're going to have an international title and a national title? You couldn't name it any fucking thing else? And you need to speed run this to throw the Casino Gauntlet match and crown that champion at this next pay-per-view, while you've been waiting for as long as you've been waiting for the ROH Women's World Pure Championship or whatever. And you've got the Women's World Tag Team title tournament going on, and that's being stretched out to a point where you announced that a long time ago compared to this, and that's not, there's not an insight with that. What the hell do they have to rush this for? And why do they need another championship to begin with? And why are you calling it the national? And why didn't you unify the unified title?
Well, let's start here. Belts are cool, right?
I mean, if it ends up looking like the NWA national title, that belt's not going to be cool. That's ugly as shit.
I want something. I want a nice medium. I do like the stupid map outline of the states. I just don't think that should be the only thing on the design. But who knows? Maybe he's gonna use the Magnum TA style one where it was just like a silver NWA title, which maybe it'll just be a silver AEW title. I don't know. It's too many belts. I don't need to belabor that point because I think everybody knows it's too many belts. And the naming convention is strange, as evident by MVP, because Benjamin and Lashley are the first to announce for the match. MVP immediately said, AEW International title. Whoops. Okay. I think that you didn't need this when you had a cool belt in the international belt. But let's see what happens here. Casino gauntlets are fun. Wrestling's confusing as it is.
I mean, it definitely is like one belt that's unnecessary. And look, I mean, let's face it, as an overarching thing, every single big promotion has too many belts. WWE has too many, AEW has too many belts, WWE has too many belts, New Japan has too many belts. I don't know where like CMLL and AAA stand, but I imagine that they have plenty of belts as well. TNA, for the size promotion it is, has too many belts. It's like, that is just, but that is just the prop that wrestling is. It's like, you introduce belt because you're trying to inject something fun and interesting, and new title belt is a, a surefire way of doing it, or like an easy way of doing it. I think the idea with this national title, from how they described it, is they want it to be some kind of like roaming championship that's like fought about throughout the States, but through AEW, but also through Ring of Honor, and also into like New Japan in their US territories, and then other US promotions as well. So I think that's the kind of concept behind it. The issue with that being that was the whole concept of the international title before they moved it on to just being a thing on the show. And it was originally like that, because that was when Pac was originally holding it. He was going all over the place and defending it in multiple countries and locations, and then they just gave it to Orange Cassidy, and it just became his like weekly TV title defense.
I'm like the Santa Claus of powder. He's my partner, bro.
He also the reason everybody's getting shot.
You got nerve, Vegan.
I'll be waiting for you.
The smartest people on earth know how to spot a good deal. That's why they shop at Ollie's first. You'll save up to 70% off the fancy store's prices. So you go, you smart and savvy shopper. You know where the real deals are, where they sell good stuff cheap.
Ollie's! Good stuff cheap!
Title defense thing, or as good as it was, that was just what it got reduced down to, and then it just became, your standard mid-card title. So, the pattern is there to say this is what they'll do originally with the first champion, and then they'll just revert to type, and it'll just be a title on the TV show that just gets defended every now and again. I don't know what the status is with like the Continental and the International title. I know Don Callis is holding them, but that's a case of maybe he's just holding them to look good. I don't think there hasn't at least been any indication that they're planning on splitting that title and reverting back to the International and Continental Championship at some point. It seems like they're only focused on the unified title, because it's not like there's been an international title or a continental title match on its own since then.
Well, see, that's where like we go back in time and we can look at WWE and go, oh my God, they're doing the exact same thing. And it's like it's exactly the same thing too. That's the thing that's funny about it. Roman Reigns has the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and he wins the WWE Universal Championship. Or that's the other way around. Whatever the fuck. Point being, he has got one belt.
Champion won the WWE title.
Yeah. Universal wins the WWE title, and then his manager, his bald manager, holds the two championships as they give him a new title that is called the Undisputed Championship. So Kazuchika Okada wins the other championship, and his bald manager holds the two titles as they call him the Unified Champion. It even starts with the letter U. Same thing. And for the entire time that Roman was champion with the 2 belts and when Cody was champion, and I belabored this point over and over for the entire year that Cody was champion, they did not update WWE.com. The Superstars page had Cody listed as the Universal and the WWE champion. John Cena wins, and suddenly they wake the fuck up, and they either just then noticed, which is insane if that's what made them notice after an entire year plus of being the champion, 2 years at most, even. Or they then realized that they didn't want to make it an 18-time thing with John Cena, so then they retroactively retconned it. But if you go to allelitewrestling.com right now, it's the same problem because All Elite Wrestling has their roster page and they don't update it super frequently about every single little thing. But right now, Kazuchika Okada is listed 3 times on the champions list. He's listed as the unified champion, the continental champion, and the international champion, which implies that it's still separate. So either they're in the exact same situation of the bald manager of the unified instead of undisputed champion is holding 2 belts that are not 2 belts anymore, and we don't want to update the roster page, or we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We just don't want to remove any of that yet because that's a decision that's being made. So we're just going to be like, fuck it. You shouldn't care about it until we care about it, and then you should go with whatever we go with, and then you should retroactively not care anyway. That pisses me off so fucking much.
I agree from your perspective, but I would say you are literally the only person that I've ever known that cares about this stuff.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I am, but at the same time, that is a problem because if these belts matter, people should care. And if they don't care, it doesn't matter. And the whole point of a belt is to be that you should care about it. So if Okada is like, I'm the unified champion, which means that I'm the champion of these 2 championships, but those 2 championships don't exist anymore. But at any point I could drop the belts or I could defend both. Then the rules don't fucking matter and nothing matters at all.
I think that it's probably just like the latter situation that you define, where it's like that those belts don't exist anymore. They just haven't updated the roster page to reflect the fact that the Continental and the international titles just don't exist anymore. They've both been unified under the Unified Championship.
And for some reason, they don't have the stones to call it the Intercontinental Championship. Or maybe it's a copyright thing, even though clearly Skylar Ray and, the national title and whatever means that people are playing around with copyright stuff.
National.
But maybe they want to call it the Intercontinental and they can't. And then that would be where we go back into what I've talked about a million times before, where I wish somebody had the fucking balls. And this doesn't even require balls to do it, but just had the sensibility to ask Tony Khan and go you're not just keeping this the fucking unified title, are you? Are you going to name it something? Or is this a thing where if you can't do that for a trademark? And then if it is that, and if he would just go, yeah, you know what? I want to name it that, but we're still deliberating about trademarks or something, then just fucking say that and, be honest about it. Because the national title, somebody at some point needs to ask Tony Khan, whether it's heading into the Full Gear media coverage thing or something. Somebody has to go, dude, you've got an international title. Why are you having a national title? And I want to hear his excuse for why he couldn't name it any fucking thing else.
I don't see what the issue of calling it a national title, in the sense that he can call it whatever he wants, and it's I'm sure there's multiple promotions out there that have a national title or some sort of equivalent name of the title, in the same way that he could have called it the Intercontinental title because New Japan had an Intercontinental Championship, and I'm sure other promotions have Intercontinental Championships as well. He just probably chose not to because it felt like we're too closely aligned to WWE, and so they have an Intercontinental title, so we can't call it an Intercontinental title. Whereas New Japan has a distance enough to the point where, we can call our titles, we can basically name all our titles, as long as we don't put the word WWE in it, we can name them all the same thing that WWE have, because, WWE have a World Tag titles, AEW have a World Tag titles, but that's kind of the regular nomenclature. But I think they've just gone with the national one because even though it exists from an NWA perspective, I think Tony Khan sees AEW as the replacement or as the spiritual successor of the NWA, because the current iteration of the NWA sucks and is like basically a Walking Dead promotion. And so he probably sees, like, we're on TBS, which was the old home of like NWA and WCW and all of that stuff. So we're actually more NWA than the NWA is. So we should have the national title because we're actually, we're what the NWA has turned into. Whereas rather than the husk that's still carrying around, dragging like 100 people to their shows every like couple of months.
But that's where I still just go, like, somebody needs to ask him, then what's with the international title? Do you really honestly plan on splitting that and having an international and a national? Or do you plan on merging it? If you merged it, why didn't you merge it? And then just be like, just do whatever you need to do already.
That's where we get back to Callum's point of, you would have to be the one to ask that question, Tony. You have to get invited to a media call to ask that question because you're the only one who's going to.
Why is it up to Tony to fix America?
I'd say the main issue I have with this title is just the fact there's just another mid-card championship.
And yeah, you don't need a third one to begin with. Like,
because the idea is every title should have not such a gimmick, but a unique aspect to it. Whether it is the case that the TNT title should be a title that's defended every single week on television. I don't think it should ever be defended on pay-per-view, even though, you could get good matches out of it. It should be a television championship. That is like the goal of it, is you become that champion and you have to defend it every single week. And then, on pay-per-view, you can have whoever the champion is be involved in, like, tag team matches or just some, like, other kinds of, you got Cole Fletcher as part of the Don Callis family, so he could be in some kind of trios match with other members of the Don Callis family against another random trios team. But if it was up to me, then both the TBS and TNT titles, the rule behind them is they're defended every single week on television, and that's just it has to be defended every week on TV. And if someone can't defend the title that week, then the title gets forfeited, and it's an immediate, we crown a new champion, it gets vacated, and we crown the new champion on the next show. And then even national, international, whatever you want to call it, like this national title is the one that's the roaming championship that's basically defended between multiple promotions. It's your kind of spirit of unity one where in AEW has a working relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor, and obviously they own Ring of Honor, but have with New Japan and CMLL and Stardom and whoever else. So that should be a title that's, goes between promotions and is defended on multiple different fronts. It's your kind of AEW's gateway to other promotions, both nationally and internationally. And then you've got your world title, which is your big for both the women and the men. That's your just big main event championship. And then if you want to have this, like, either unified or continental or anything along those lines, that's where you just build it around. Like, you've got your tournament wrestling, which is like, you've got the Continental Classics, that's the grand prize of that tournament, and then you have the gimmick attached to it where, like, I don't like the way that people sometimes word it, like, it's not about that there's no interference, because there's no interference, there should be no interference in any title match. It's more a case that you don't have any managers, they've got 20-minute time limits, there's more of a kind of traditional wrestling feel about it. So as long as it doesn't matter how many titles you have, as long as they all have a distinct purpose that separates it from any other championship. But you need to do that. And I just think that AEW, and especially in the past, just hasn't done enough to distinguish the titles from each other. They're just, they're just there to help establish other people and give them something to hold. So you need to... and this goes for AEW in particular, but like every single promotion, every title should have a distinct purpose to it beyond just, because I don't like the idea of like, oh, this is your mid-card title. Like, what does that mean? What does mid-card mean? Does that mean that like up? Because like Becky Lynch is holding the Intercontinental title for the women right now. Is she a mid-carder?
Right.
I don't think so. It's like, so, and usually the people that have the best reigns with the Intercontinental title aren't really mid-carders. They're usually people that are on the cusp of the main event, or should be, or could very easily be main eventers. So I just think that, yeah, it's just an issue with titles in general nowadays, that a lot of them are just props and means of just eliciting an additional pop or an additional bit of, fake prestige, because you can't actually build up stars or tell compelling stories on television. So that's my bigger issue with this belt. It's a bigger overarching thing of like, championships don't mean as much as they used to. Not be like old man just shouting at clouds like back in my day titles meant something, because fundamentally I'm probably of an age of pro wrestling where titles probably haven't meant anything because I've been watching only for 20 years, whereas like when titles were just sparse and not around as much, that was probably in the 70s 80s time. But yeah, that's my bigger issue, not so much what it's called or what it's supposed to or whether like the NWA should still have the rights to a national championship or not. It's like, yeah, just, give your title some definition to them. That's the most important thing.
I wish that we were in an era where people like, the transparency element and the whole like just thinking, and like I feel like a lot of things can be solved by just like thinking for 10 minutes, or like having more than one voice just be like, hey, you do realize that blank, and then somebody goes, oh fuck, I didn't think about that. And I'll put out a thing if I need to. I'll put out a thing requesting the media access for Full Gear just to ask Tony Khan that question. I don't think I'll get approved for it, but
it's another just overarching, not to just like belabor the point, but it's coming up with a short-term quote unquote fix for a problem you've created already through this exact same approach.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that like you're creating another title to fix the fact that you tried to do something with another championship and either failed or decided to go in a different direction, and now you're trying to do the same thing with a different title. Like, and you're just going to find yourself probably running into the same problem you did with the other title, which is you're just not going to use it in the way that it was intended, and you're going to fall back into old habits, and then you're just going to find a way to unify this with another championship down the line, and then 3 years later you're going to try and introduce the same title to try and do the same thing over again. It's like
the global world, whatever, international, intercontinental, continental, national championship.
Yeah, and it's not in the same vein, but like, the Speed Championship is a gimmick that was there to replace the 24/7 Championship, which was there to replace the Hardcore Championship, which is there to replace. Eventually, you just go cycle and you just do the same thing, and then eventually you get bored of it, or you just end up doing the same thing over and over again, and you're just like, it's got no variety to it, and you just move on. So, yeah, the Speed Championship should be dead, but it will die eventually, because there's only so often you can be doing that. Like, as I like, the Pure Championship died for a while in Ring of Honor, and then they brought it back, and like, it's that these sort of gimmick championships do have a life expectancy to them. If you
look at that Heritage Cup, for instance, where is that? Yeah. It's another thing. If I could talk to Triple H or Shawn Michaels and just be like, why is this the fourth time that the Heritage Cup disappeared? Can you just fucking get rid of it already? We clearly know that you don't like it.
See, and then I'm the guy that goes, all right, if you're going to insist on having championships, let's get some kind of hardcore title in there. Get something that has an actual like gimmick to it.
Yeah. Do the Cruiserweight Championship in AEW instead of the National Championship, but then you can at least be like, all right, cool, we could give that belt to like a Dante Martin or somebody, and then make it seem like they're important in their kind of way, where fucking Commander wins that belt, or whoever, and then you go, I'm the king of the cruiserweights. The national title? Fuck you.
So the naming of it won't affect me as long as like they use it with a distinct purpose in mind. But the main issue I'll have is if they just do that purpose for a couple of months and then just revert back to it's just a title with a name. So,
and I'll say this, I think the distinct purpose should be, if you're going to use the NWA excuse, the NWA National Champion at any given point in time is the de facto number one contender to the NWA World Champion, or at least that's how it was in the 80s. That could be an easy in for, hey, maybe you're in a pinch, you got a guaranteed number one contender in your national champion who, by the way, I think might end up being Bobby Lashley.
And then that should be, well, then shouldn't the unified champion be the number one contender? Because that guy's got 2 belts.
You gotta
and what's
let go
the difference
of the
between the unified and the national? Which one ranks higher? Oh, well, about the TNT title, shouldn't that matter as well? And then you get into the argument of like, well, out of the 4 mid-card belts, which one is ranked higher? Well, 2 of them have the same name, and one of them is merged with the other one, but that one's the Triple Crown one. That's not the Triple Crown because 2 of those belts were not in the company. And then you come back around to the idea of, wouldn't it have just been a lot easier to just have Konosuke Takeshita challenge Kazuchika Okada for the international title? And then Okada drops the international title, and then you got the international title back separate again?
I think overall this discussion is leading me to an idea of like, it's doing either like a Darkcast or a podcast where we kind of discuss, if we were in charge of wrestling promotion, what championships would we have, and how would what would be the hierarchy or the purpose of them?
I like that discussion because I already have a mapped out thing of what I would do if I had my own promotion.
Yeah, I probably have an idea as well. I've had things like, we've probably showcased it in some formal fashion in our like fantasy cards and stuff like that as well. But
yeah,
like I think it's worth discussing because like it is just a growing thing it's been an issue for years and years. But these promotions either have too many titles or they have too many titles that essentially do the same thing. Like, because there is no distinction between the United States and the Intercontinental title. They're just on different brands. There's no distinction between the, there was no distinction for a while between the Continental Championship and the International Championship before they were unified. It's like, there's just too many issues with the current approach to when championships are made and what do they mean and are they worth shit anymore? And it's like, we need to fix it.
And I think I would distill all of this down to the fact of, and I say this with all the love in my heart for people like this, because I was like this, and I'm sure Callum was too. This is where you get into the idea of, not a derogatory statement, but Tony Khan sometimes seems to be booking like he's just playing with action figures.
Oh yeah.
And this is like but today I want to have a national title, and I had this cool idea, and then tomorrow I have a fun idea for a unified title because I just finished watching some Memphis tapes, and I like that name, and like that's fine. I love that about Tony Khan. Like, Tony Khan's a fucking nerd, and I love it. I do. It's just in practice, it sometimes gets a little cuckoo.
And that's with the other person that he's playing with, the other action figures, and you do the I'm more important because I'm the world champion. Well, I'm the super mega global champion, and I got a force field. Yeah, well, I got force field piercing bullets. Oh, well, those my force field actually has force field piercing bullet force fields, and I whatever. You're not the national champion. You're the international champion. You're the intercontinental champion. You're the continental classic champion. You're the, oh my God, fuck you. Can you just have 2 mid-card belts? You don't even need, technically speaking, you only need 1. I mean, technically speaking, you only need 1 world champion. We should do the Starcast. We should do that maybe next week or so.
This is what I'll leave it at, because I think Dave Meltzer actually said it right. Across the board, there's too many championships. And AEW, at its most popular, had maybe 4. So, and that's from Dave. So I'll leave it at that because I kind of agree with that.
Well, if you do want to see us do that Darkcast idea, which, if you want me to explain the stuff I've written out and hear what Rob and Callum's thoughts would be on their setup for championships and stuff too, let us know. We could try to do a Darkcast for that like next week or something. In the meantime, share your support for everything across the board and go and check out all of the links you can find on the link tree at anthonymango.com or amangotree.com for all of my stuff, all the stuff for Smart Guy Moment, and all the Fanboys Anonymous stuff as well. If you're interested in Fanboys Anonymous, as I mentioned before, I had already recorded the Survivor Series DC Comics episode. So that AEW DC crossover. If you want to know who's on the Bat Family team and who's on the House of L team for Superman and so on and so forth, heels and baby faces and all, it's a fun ride. So check that out if you're interested. Make sure that you're following Rob and Callum too.
Yeah, I was along for that ride. You'll hear animated thoughts regarding the Bat Family, and the rest is me going, that's a great idea, Tony. Yeah. Let's do a James Bond Royal Rumble.
And if you want us to do a James Bond Royal Rumble, we can do it.
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice if you so choose. Callum?
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every single Saturday over on smartmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And check out the Fantasy League, also at wwefantasyleague.com, to see how our different rosters are performing, who's picking up points as we head towards Survivor Series War Games. And yeah, if people win those matches, or whoever's on the winning teams of those matches, will get some nice bonus points to that as well. So always worth a scramble once the teams are actually finalised to try and get those people on your rosters if you so can.
So we, of course, have plenty of stuff coming your way. And as usual, just make sure that you're following us on all the different platforms and checking out all the stuff that's happening on smartguy.com as well. And that's going to do us in for this episode. So leave your comments below and we'll see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smart Out moment, and we are being counted out.